Welcome back everyone to the channel Coin Star, where hidden history meets unbelievable value and where ordinary pocket change can sometimes turn into extraordinary treasure. And today we are diving into one of the most fascinating and misunderstood coins in United States history, the 1965 Roosevelt dime. A small silver-colored coin that most people have spent without a second thought, yet one that under very rare circumstances has shocked collectors, stunned the coin market, and created headlines by reaching values reported as high as $1.3 million, making it one of the most talked about modern-era coins and a perfect example of how tiny mistakes, rare mint errors, and historical turning points can combine to transform a simple 10-cent piece into a legendary collectible. So let's take a journey into the story, mystery, and possibilities behind the 1965 Roosevelt dime and why this Liberty-themed coin can be worth dramatically more than its face value. The Roosevelt dime was introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, whose leadership during the Great Depression and World War II left an indelible mark on the nation, and whose efforts in founding the March of Dimes to fight polio made the dime a fitting tribute, and for nearly 2 decades these dimes were struck in 90% silver, giving them intrinsic metal value as well as historical significance. But everything changed in 1965, a year that stands as a major turning point in American coinage because of a nationwide coin shortage driven by rising silver prices, hoarding, and economic shifts, forcing the United States Mint to make a historic decision to remove silver from dimes and quarters, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. And this transition created chaos, experimentation, and opportunity for errors inside the minting process. The standard 1965 Roosevelt dime was supposed to be made of a copper core sandwiched between 2 layers of copper-nickel, with no mint mark displayed on the coin, as mint marks were temporarily removed between 1965 and 1967 to discourage collectors from hoarding coins by date and mint. And millions upon millions of these clad dimes were struck at the Philadelphia Mint and placed into circulation, most of which today are still worth only face value. But within this massive production run, a few extraordinary anomalies occurred that forever changed the legacy of the 1965 dime. One of the most famous and valuable possibilities is the existence of 1965 dimes accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets intended for 1964 dimes, and while the mint officially stated that all silver planchets were removed before 1965 production began, multiple authenticated examples have surfaced over the decades, proving that at least a small number of silver blanks somehow remained in the machinery or were mixed into the supply, resulting in a 1965 dime that looks nearly identical to a normal one but weighs more, sounds different when dropped, and contains precious metal content that was never meant to be there. And these transitional error coins are among the most sought after modern U.S. coins in existence because they represent a direct physical link to a moment of dramatic change in monetary history. The value of these silver 1965 dimes depends heavily on condition, authentication, and provenance, but pristine examples certified by top grading services have sold for tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of dollars, and when combined with unique characteristics, exceptional preservation, or special circumstances, some reported sales and private transactions have pushed valuations into the $1 million range, especially when a coin becomes the finest known example of its kind, igniting fierce competition among elite collectors who are willing to pay almost any price to secure a once-in-a-lifetime piece. Another powerful source of value lies in mint mark-related errors and oddities. Even though 1965 dimes were not supposed to carry mint marks, there have been intense debates and investigations around faint impressions, ghost marks, or irregular shapes that suggest the possibility of experimental dyes or accidental carryovers from previous years. And while true mint-marked 1965 dimes are not officially recognized, coins with unusual markings, dye anomalies, or misplaced impressions can spark major interest when proven authentic and distinct from post-mint damage. Equally captivating are double die errors, where the design elements such as the word Liberty, the date 1965, or the motto "In God We Trust" appear doubled due to misalignment during the die creation process. And unlike machine doubling, which is relatively common and less valuable, true double dies show strong, clear separation that is visible under magnification and remains consistent across the coin. And high-grade double die 1965 dimes are extremely rare because the dies were used extensively and most errors were caught or worn down quickly, making surviving examples especially desirable. Off-center strikes are another category that elevate the value of a 1965 Roosevelt dime far beyond 10 cents, occurring when the planchet is not properly seated between the dies, causing part of the design to be missing while leaving a crescent-shaped blank area, and the more dramatic the off-center strike while still showing the full date, the more valuable the coin becomes, with extreme off-center examples drawing serious money from error coin specialists who appreciate both the visual impact and the technical rarity of such mistakes. Broad strike errors, where the coin is struck outside of the retaining collar resulting in an expanded diameter and distorted rim, also add to the list of valuable possibilities, especially when the coin retains strong detail and minimal circulation wear, since these errors offer a tangible look at what happens when the minting process briefly goes wrong. Wrong planchet errors extend beyond silver blanks and include cases where a 1965 dime may have been struck on a foreign planchet, a penny blank, or even a quarter planchet, leading to unusual size, thickness, or coloration, and these dramatic mismatches can be immediately eye-catching, sparking excitement and curiosity among collectors, and when authenticated, they can command substantial premiums, sometimes reaching 5 or 6 figures depending on rarity and condition. Die cracks, cut errors where part of the die breaks away leaving a raised blob on the coin, and clash marks where opposing dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring parts of one design onto the other, all contribute additional layers of intrigue and value, and because the 1965 dime was produced in such huge numbers under intense pressure to meet demand, the likelihood of unusual die states and errors slipping through increases, making the search for rare varieties both challenging and thrilling. Condition plays a massive role in determining the worth of any 1965 Roosevelt dime, especially at the top end of the market, because most circulated examples show wear, scratches, and dull surfaces, while coins that were preserved immediately after minting with full luster, sharp strikes, and clean fields are exceptionally scarce, and when combined with a rare error, such a coin can become a once-in-a-generation discovery that attracts international attention. Professional grading and authentication are absolutely critical in separating truly valuable coins from altered or damaged ones, as the high stakes involved in million-dollar valuations attract fakes, misrepresentations, and misunderstandings, and only coins certified by respected organizations carry the credibility necessary to achieve record-breaking prices. The psychological and historical appeal of the 1965 Roosevelt dime also adds to its mystique, as it represents the end of silver in everyday American coinage, the last breath of an era when precious metal circulated freely in the hands of ordinary people, and the beginning of a new age of fiat-based money. And owning a rare 1965-era dime is like holding a physical symbol of that transition, frozen in metal. Stories of collectors discovering valuable 1965 dimes in old jars, inherited collections, or estate holdings continue to fuel interest and hope, inspiring people to check their change and learn more about what they might already own without realizing it, and while the odds of finding $1 million dime are extremely slim, the mere possibility keeps the legend alive and the hunt exciting. Market demand for top-tier Roosevelt dime errors has steadily grown as modern collectors gain appreciation for post-World War II coinage and as high-profile auction results bring mainstream attention to coins once thought boring or insignificant, and the combination of rarity, historical importance, and dramatic error characteristics creates perfect conditions for explosive value when the right coin meets the right buyer at the right time. The reported $1.3 million worth associated with exceptional 1965 Roosevelt dimes reflects not just metal or denomination but the story, rarity, certification, competition, and passion that drive the upper levels of the numismatic market, where coins are no longer just money but artifacts, investments, and trophies. In the end, the 1965 Roosevelt dime reminds us that value is not always obvious at first glance, that mistakes can become miracles in the world of collectibles, and that history often hides in the smallest places, waiting to be rediscovered. So whether you are a seasoned collector, a curious beginner, or someone who simply enjoys the thrill of uncovering hidden treasures, this tiny Liberty coin stands as proof that even a dime can carry a story worth millions, and that is what makes the world of coin collecting endlessly fascinating and why you should never underestimate the change in your pocket. That proves even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises, because this video is all about the one dime 1999 D Roosevelt from the United States of America, a coin most people have seen, spent, or ignored without a second thought, yet one that under very rare circumstances has shocked collectors, stunned auction houses, and reached an unbelievable value of up to $1.6 million. Not because of its face value of 10 cents, but because of extraordinary errors, mint mistakes, rare mint mark anomalies, and unique production possibilities that transform an ordinary dime into a legendary numismatic treasure. And as you watch this video, keep in mind that the dime you might have right now in a drawer, a wallet, or an old jar could potentially change your life if it carries the right characteristics, because the Roosevelt dime series, introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, has always been closely tied to American history, strength, and resilience, and the 1999 D. Roosevelt dime is especially fascinating because it was struck at the Denver Mint during a time of massive coin production, when millions upon millions of dimes were being produced to meet everyday circulation demand, which ironically increases the chances for errors, because when mints operate at high speed, small mistakes can slip through unnoticed. And those mistakes are exactly what collectors hunt for today with intense passion, and while most 1999 D. Roosevelt dimes are only worth face value or slightly more, a very tiny number of them carry rare minting errors that elevate their worth from 10 cents to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in extreme, museum-quality cases, values reported and rumored at up to $1.6 million, especially when multiple rare error types appear on a single coin, creating what collectors call a perfect storm of rarity. And to truly understand how this happens, we have to appreciate the design itself, because on the obverse of the coin we see the familiar portrait of Franklin D. Roosevelt, facing left, with the word liberty along the left edge and the phrase "In God We Trust" to the right, while the date 1999 sits clearly at the bottom. Yet on rare error examples, these elements may appear distorted, doubled, misaligned, weakly struck, or partially missing, and those imperfections, which might look like damage to an untrained eye, are actually evidence of highly valuable minting errors, such as doubled dies where the design appears to be duplicated or shadowed due to a misalignment during the die creation process, creating doubling on the letters of liberty, the date, or even Roosevelt's facial features, which dramatically increases collector demand. And then there are off-center strikes, where the blank planchet was not positioned correctly when struck, causing part of the design to be missing and creating a dramatic visual effect that collectors love, especially when the date and mint mark remain visible. Because visibility is crucial for authentication and value, and speaking of mint marks, the D mint mark on this dime is one of the most important factors in its potential value, because certain rare mint mark errors, such as a repunched mint mark, an over mint mark, or even a missing mint mark due to dye fill or grease errors, can cause the coin's value to skyrocket, and in some extraordinary cases, a 1999 Roosevelt dime struck on the wrong planchet has been discovered, meaning the dime was mistakenly struck on a coin blank intended for a different denomination, such as a penny or even a foreign coin blank, which results in a coin with incorrect weight, thickness, and metallic composition, immediately signaling to experts that the coin is a major mint error worth a fortune. And these wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in modern U.S. coinage, because they are extremely rare and almost impossible to replicate, making each one unique. And then there are clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank was improperly cut before striking, leaving a curved or straight missing section on the coin, which again adds to its desirability, particularly when combined with other errors like doubling or misalignment. And as if that were not enough, collectors also seek die cracks, die breaks, and cut errors on the 1999 D. Roosevelt dime, which occur when the die itself begins to crack or break apart after heavy use, transferring raised lines, breaks, or blobs of metal onto the coin's surface, creating one-of-a-kind patterns that can never be duplicated. And the larger and more dramatic the die break, the more valuable the coin becomes, especially if it affects key areas of the design such as Roosevelt's portrait, the lettering, or the torch and olive branches on the reverse. And when we turn the coin over, the reverse design featuring the torch symbolizing liberty, flanked by an olive branch for peace and an oak branch for strength, can also exhibit breathtaking errors, including weak strikes where details are faded, rotated dies where the reverse is not properly aligned with the obverse, or even dramatic strike-through errors where foreign material like grease, cloth, or metal shavings became trapped between the die and the planchet, leaving ghostly impressions or missing details that fascinate collectors. And one of the most talked about possibilities that drives values toward the $1 million mark is when multiple errors appear together on a single 1999 D Roosevelt dime, for example a double die combined with an off-center strike and a wrong planchet, which is incredibly rare and commands massive attention from elite collectors and museums, because such coins represent a perfect example of how human and mechanical factors intersect during the minting process, resulting in accidental masterpieces. And in the world of numismatics, rarity is everything, and while millions of dimes were minted in 1999 at Denver, only a microscopic fraction contained these extreme errors, making them exponentially more valuable than their normal counterparts, and when such a coin survives in excellent condition, with minimal wear and strong original surfaces, its value multiplies even further, especially if it has been professionally graded and certified by top grading services, which provide authenticity, error attribution, and preservation assessment that collectors trust when bidding astronomical amounts, and this is where the story becomes even more exciting, because many of these rare 1999 D Roosevelt dime errors were found not in elite collections, but in everyday circulation, pocket change, bank rolls, and inherited coin jars, proving that incredible treasures can hide in plain sight, and that possibility alone fuels the dreams of collectors and viewers watching this video right now, encouraging them to check every dime they come across, because the difference between a 10-cent coin and a $1.6 million coin can be a tiny detail invisible at first glance, such as a slight doubling on a letter, an unusual thickness, or an odd weight that feels different in the hand, and beyond the technical errors, the timing of the 1999 release also plays a role in its appeal, because it was the final year of the 1990s, a symbolic period in American history that attracts collectors interested in end-of-era coinage. And when historical timing intersects with rare errors, values can rise dramatically due to emotional and historical significance, and while some skeptics argue that million-dollar prices are exaggerated, the reality is that private sales, elite auctions, and undisclosed collector transactions often reach figures far beyond publicly reported prices, especially when a coin is truly unique and competition among wealthy collectors becomes fierce, driving bidding wars that push values into extraordinary territory, and this is why the 1999 D Roosevelt dime continues to be talked about as a potential seven-figure coin under the right circumstances, because it represents the ultimate modern rarity, a coin that should be ordinary but becomes legendary due to a series of accidental mistakes that can never be repeated, and when you consider the combination of mint mark anomalies, double dies, wrong planchets, off-center strikes, die breaks, strike-throughs, and preservation quality, it becomes clear how such a humble coin can shatter expectations and rewrite value charts, transforming from loose change into a life-changing asset. And this is what makes numismatics so powerful and addictive, because it teaches us that value is not always obvious, that history, rarity, and imperfection can outweigh face value by unimaginable margins, and that the 1999 D Roosevelt dime stands as a perfect example of how the U.S. Mint's high-speed production environment can occasionally give birth to accidental treasures that captivate the world, and as collectors continue to search, study, and authenticate new finds, the legend of the $1.6 million dime only grows stronger, inspiring both seasoned numismatists and everyday people to look twice at the coins they once ignored, because somewhere out there, perhaps even in your own pocket, lies a small silver-colored coin with a big story, a rare mistake frozen in metal, waiting to be discovered, celebrated, and valued far beyond its humble beginnings as a simple 10-cent piece. We are diving deep into one of the most fascinating modern American coins ever talked about, the one-dime 2020 D Roosevelt United States of American Liberty coin, a small silver-colored piece of metal with a face value of just 10 cents that has shocked collectors and viewers around the world with stories, rumors, and real auction headlines claiming values reaching an unbelievable $3.1 million. And in this video we are going to explore why this ordinary-looking coin could possibly be worth more than luxury cars, mansions, and even private islands, how simple mint errors, microscopic mistakes, rare die varieties, and unexpected production flaws can transform a common dime into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and why millions of people are watching and searching for this coin right now hoping they might already have one sitting quietly in their wallet, jar, or drawer without realizing it. The 2020 D Roosevelt dime was struck at the Denver Mint during a year unlike any other in modern history, a time marked by global disruption, rushed production schedules, staffing shortages, altered quality control procedures, and unprecedented pressure on the United States Mint to keep coins flowing into circulation despite overwhelming challenges. And it is within this extraordinary environment that some of the most dramatic and valuable minting errors are believed to have occurred, creating coins that should never have existed but somehow slipped through and entered circulation or limited release channels, instantly making them legendary among collectors. At first glance, the 2020 D. Roosevelt dime looks familiar, featuring the left-facing portrait of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, a symbol of strength, leadership, and resilience, with the word liberty boldly inscribed along the left rim and the phrase "In God We Trust" placed clearly on the right, while the reverse displays the torch flanked by olive and oak branches representing liberty, peace, and strength. Yet beneath this familiar design lies the potential for extraordinary value when even the smallest deviation from perfection appears. The most valuable examples tied to the rumored $3.1 million valuation are not just ordinary circulated dimes but extremely rare error coins that showcase combinations of mistakes so dramatic that experts believe only a handful may exist, if any at all, making them the ultimate prize for elite collectors who compete fiercely to own the rarest modern United States coins. One of the most talked about errors is the off-metal strike, where a 2020 D. Roosevelt dime may have been struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even a foreign coin, resulting in unusual weight, incorrect thickness, altered coloration, and in some cases partial designs that do not align correctly with the dime's standard dimensions, and when authenticated, such errors can command staggering prices because they represent a complete breakdown in the minting process that should have been caught at multiple stages. Another jaw-dropping possibility is the double die error, a mistake that occurs during the creation of the dies themselves, leading to doubled inscriptions, shadows on letters, and noticeable separation on words like Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or even the date 2020, and when doubling is strong, well-defined, and confirmed as a true hub doubling rather than mechanical doubling, the value of the coin skyrockets, especially when combined with a Denver Mint mark, which already carries its own appeal among collectors. Speaking of the mint mark, the D mint mark itself is at the center of another category of errors that elevate value to astonishing levels, including misplaced mint marks, repunched mint marks, tilted mint marks, doubled mint marks, or even missing mint marks on coins that were unquestionably struck at the Denver Mint, each scenario representing a different level of rarity and desirability. And when such an error appears on a modern coin like the 2020 dime, it instantly becomes a standout. Because modern minting technology is supposed to prevent these mistakes entirely. Some of the most valuable known examples are also associated with dramatic die breaks and cut errors, where large portions of the die crack or break away entirely, leaving raised blobs of metal on the finished coin that distort the design in dramatic and visually striking ways, sometimes obliterating parts of Roosevelt's portrait, the torch, or even the lettering, transforming the coin into a one-of-a-kind piece of accidental art that collectors crave. Another factor pushing the value of certain 2020 D. Roosevelt dimes into legendary territory is condition rarity, because even error coins must survive in pristine state to reach top-tier valuations, and when an error coin is discovered in near-perfect or flawless mint state condition with sharp details, original luster, and no signs of circulation, it becomes exponentially more valuable, sometimes multiplying its worth by hundreds or thousands of times compared to a similar error found worn or damaged. There are also whispers in the collecting community about transitional errors involving incorrect metal compositions, where a 2020 dime may have been struck on an experimental or leftover planchet with an unusual alloy composition that alters its weight, magnetic properties, and appearance, and when laboratory analysis confirms an unauthorized metal composition, the coin becomes a historic anomaly that challenges official mint records and ignites intense bidding wars. What truly fuels the $3.1 million conversation, however, is the possibility of a unique combination error, where multiple major mistakes occur on a single coin, such as an off-center strike combined with a double die obverse, a missing or malformed mint mark, and a dramatic die crack all appearing together on one pristine example, a scenario so rare that it borders on impossible. Yet history has proven time and again that impossible coins do exist and do eventually surface, sometimes decades after they were struck, often found by ordinary people who had no idea what they were holding. In today's digital age, social media platforms and video sharing sites have played a massive role in driving interest and awareness around the 2020 Roosevelt dime, turning it into a top-used coin that attracts millions of clicks, comments, and shares as viewers watch stories of lucky finds, expert evaluations, and auction results that seem almost unreal. And this viral attention itself contributes to market excitement, increased demand, and rising prices as more collectors enter the chase, hoping to own the next great modern rarity. Another reason this coin has captured such intense attention is the psychological appeal of modern treasure hunting, the idea that you do not need to dig in the ground or explore shipwrecks to find something valuable, but instead can simply check your change, open a coin roll, or inspect a dime from everyday circulation and potentially discover a life-changing asset. A narrative that resonates powerfully with audiences around the world. Authentication and grading play a critical role in determining whether a 2020 Roosevelt dime can truly command extreme values, because only coins certified by top-tier grading services with detailed attribution of errors, mint marks, and condition are taken seriously by high-end collectors and investors. And a properly graded error coin encased in a secure holder becomes not just a collectible but a documented piece of numismatic history. Market dynamics also influence the potential value of such coins, as wealthy collectors increasingly view rare coins as alternative investments, hedges against inflation, and portable stores of wealth, and when a coin achieves legendary status through rarity, media exposure, and expert recognition, its price can reach levels that seem absurd compared to its humble origins. The Roosevelt dime series itself adds another layer of appeal, as it honors a beloved president associated with enduring legacy, making error coins within the series even more desirable to those who collect presidential memorabilia alongside traditional numismatics. The year 2020 also stands out symbolically, representing a turning point in global history, and coins from this year carry an emotional and historical weight that future generations may value even more, especially when paired with documented mint anomalies that tell a story of disruption and adaptation. It is important to understand that not every 2020 Roosevelt dime is valuable, and the vast majority are worth only face value, yet the existence of even a few extraordinary error examples is enough to spark widespread interest and keep millions of people searching, inspecting, and hoping, because the reward for finding the right coin is nothing short of extraordinary. Stories continue to circulate about collectors who discovered rare dimes in bank rolls, estate collections, or inherited jars, sending them in for grading on a whim and receiving life-altering news in return, reinforcing the belief that the next major discovery could happen to anyone at any time. As demand for rare error coins continues to grow and supply remains fixed or extremely limited, the potential for record-breaking sales remains very real, especially if a previously unknown example surfaces with a combination of errors so extreme that it redefines what is possible in modern United States coinage. The fascination with the one-dime 2020 Roosevelt United States of American Liberty coin is ultimately about more than money. It is about the thrill of discovery, the beauty of imperfection, and the idea that even in a world driven by machines and precision, human history still leaves behind unexpected flaws that become treasures.